Alright, guys, here's my full card breakdown. My picks were terrible. But listen, guys, life isn't about picks. It's about picks, okay? From now on, guys, I'm going to be actually looking into the fighters. I don't really do that too much. I'll watch them fight. I will not be blindly picking bums. I'm no longer going to do that. The first fight of the card, the preliminary opener. Jeremiah Wells versus Mike DeBeck Oralby. The caveman let me down. I can't. Hey, he let me down. I really did think this was. You know what? I did say this was going to be 100 times more competitive than people thought it would. I didn't expect for Wells to win. Like, the guy almost, he took Garembo to a decision, but he could finish Oralby? Oralby. This is Oralby we're talking about. This ain't no Demba Garembo. This isn't goddamn fucking, what was the guy's name? Max Griffin. Beat him. Max Griffin beat Wells. And, nobody thought he was going to win this. Of course not. You look at his resume, he's 40 years old with terrible losses. Max Griffin can't fight. And he beat Max Griffin. What the hell? And he okay, I'll break it down. He starts off, he it's a little tippy-tappy. Oralby tries to go for a shot, gets clipped a few times, a few 4-punch combos thrown by Wells. Other than that, Oralby just controls him. For the first two, I would say. But Wells threw some haymakers any chance he got, I will say. The third round, he clips Oralby with a big meaty hook, just wings the shit, clips him. Oralby doesn't even look that hurt. He stumbles a little. He does a little mini chicken dance, just a little bit. Then he immediately shoots. I'm pretty sure he was so discombobulated from that punch. He had to have been, because he let himself get choked. And Wells had been going for that. I believe the second. It was one of the early rounds. It was 1 or 2. I forgot. It was 2. When Wells was just punching him after he tried to go for the same ninja choke. He immediately, he gets it, and he locks it in, and gets the win, because Oralby was too sleepy. I'm joking. He tried to club him to the knees. He tried to knee him. He tried to use the club knees to beat Wells, but Wells fucking pulled it out the fire. Big-ass underdog to start off the card. -675 to a -1,300 favorite. Holy fucking shit, bro. That's fucking insane that Wells got that done. Just how good is Max Griffin? Just how good. We were talking about Oralby being the next champion. Nah, I'm not. Reminder, Leon Edwards turned Oralby down so he could wait out and deny Uros Medic a chance as well. That's just unfathomable. Unfathomable. My bad, I'm discombobulated, but good job to Wells. He said he was gonna, he was either gonna retire or get a top 15 fight. Just give Unk a top 15 fight. You gotta make him fight after that. We either need to see him get absolutely slimed or he becomes a top 15 fighter randomly. The least expected person to become a top 15 fighter. What the hell, man? I had Oralby. Moving on, Ramiz Brahimov versus Neil Magny. Brahimov, he starts out shooting some takedown. Actually, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going to skip that real quick. Neil Magny, Unk still got it. You would imagine that Unk, at his ripe age of 39, wouldn't still have it. He still has it. I mean, I'm pretty sure, was Brahimov a favorite? Brahimov was a favorite. I had Magny. Magny, size-wise, is a nightmare matchup for Brahimov, just off of, the size alone. If we look at Brahimov, he literally lost to Soriano, he lost to Themba Garembo, he lost to some, he beat Mickey Gall, but, those are some bottom-of-the-barrel welterweights he beat. And the fact he was a favorite is insane. He gassed out trying to hold Magny down for the very first round. And he tried to do it in the second, got reversed. He had Magny in the cage sitting position. He turned it into mount, which was pretty nice. He then got, in the second, he then got in the sitting mount position. Magny was beating up a little bit. And then as they got up, Magny just said, to hell with your grappling. I'm just going to sock you in the face. And that's what he did. And Brahimon was already tired from trying to hold Magny down. And he had shot and he got stuffed immediately, which, he caught Magny by surprise in the first by getting the first takedown. But the second one was not good. He tried to shoot, immediately got stuffed, and he got finished on the cage because he was too gassed. They showed Bilal and Yair egging him on, like, you train with this guy and he still is this bad? Although, I will admit, Neil Magny is a monster, so he may be 40, but he still got it. Moving on, we got Rafael Tobias versus Lucas Fernando. If I was a casual, I would say Fernando would beat Oldberg right now, but I don't know, man. He looked pretty good. He chewed up Tobias's leg, just killed him. And Tobias really had nothing the entire fight. Let's look at the round by round. Just nothing. Just barely anything. He had nothing for Fernando. Fernando looked like a world beater out there. He pieces him up for the very first round, just pieces him up. Misses a question mark kick just barely. Tobias blocks a few kicks. He gets his calf chewed up. He gets taken down. Fernando gets taken down for a second. He does get taken down off of a missed kick. He does a little, like an ankle pick up. If you know what I'm talking about, if you played. Never mind. He gets, thrown off a kick, taken down for like 20 seconds till the round ended. Round 2, just copy and paste. 28 of his strikes were all significant. How many of his strikes were significant? Okay. $1 billion company, by the way. $1 billion company. He landed about... all of his strikes were significant. That's probably because most of what he was throwing was low kicks. He landed a bunch of nasty body kicks. He got Tobias on the cage, some nasty liver shots. And this fight ended with, I believe, a body kick, if my memory serves me correctly. Yes, it was a body kick. It was a flush body kick to the liver. Just, Tobias had endured a beating. This is what I was saying, like, Tobias can clobber, but he's not technical in anything he does. And Fernando punished him for it. He just destroyed him. That was a very nice performance by him. I can't wait to see what's next for this Fernando guy. He looks good. Like, he can actually be something. My cat's outside my door. I have to go open it in a second. Vicente Luque. I'll be right back. I'll cut this out. Alright, moving on. Vicente Luque versus Tresean Gore. I had Vicente Luque. Tresean Gore, man, he really did shock me here. I thought Luque was going to get it done. Round 1, we'll look at the stats together, guys. Don't worry. Round 1 was kind of even on strikes, but Tresean Gore had visibly hurt Luque. That made him go to the cage with his guard up, so that won him the round for sure. Just off of visual damage and reactions. He got Luque on the cage. Round 2. I believe it was actually when Luque was throwing a cross or a jab that Gore immediately threw an overhand over it. Round 2. Luque, he starts off, a bit better. Clips Gore in an exchange. He gets Gore to a panic shoot. Locks up a Darce that he, believed he had got him in. It wasn't locked in fully, and this man, Tresean Gore, got out of it somehow. It was a real tight Darce, but it probably wasn't all the way in like you would expect, but it was a tight Darce. And Gore got out of it, took top position. He tried an arm triangle at one point, but he was elbowing Luque from the top, punishing him, a little bit of ground and pound. You know what I mean? Just some ground and pound. Then in round 3, they both looked like tired unks. They were just running around. Nah, I'm playing. Luque was pressuring Gore, but Gore was sticking and moving. He had visibly tired. And at the end of the round, Luque fucking throws a jumping, flying, crane kick knee looking thing, and apparently knocks out Gore's entire bottom row of teeth. Like, he literally breaks his teeth out of his mouth. They even showed it in the post-fight speech that the 4 bottom teeth, next to your, the 4 bottom teeth got basically, pop, just broke out of his mouth. And that was crazy. That was a pretty crazy thing to see. This Unk did not still have it. Okay, Luque, he didn't look the best, but that was probably because he was trying to hammer on a Darce. I had him in round 2 submission as well. I'm surprised he didn't get that. Like, he did start out the round well. If he had not gone for that and just tried ground and pound, things would have been a lot different, I think. But you can never really predict these things. Moving on. Oh, good performance by Gore. That second round, he really did show grit and heart. He did better than I expected. It was a pick him for a reason, I guess. But Vicente Luque is the guy. You know what I mean? He was that guy. He did beat Bilal Muhammad, who went on to become champion. And Luque, he was gonna fight the main event. He was gonna fight one of the guys in the main event. Luque, he at one point in time, man, this guy was gonna be something. Beat RDA over 5. Just so much. Now we're losing to Tresean Gore. We'll beat some greats. Some great fighters. You have to call good fighters great fighters. Moving on. Good performance by Gore. Whew. I was very wrong about this one. I had predicted Eric McConaughey. I don't even think I told how he was going to win. Alright, moving on. Dante Johnson versus Eric McConaughey. I had McConaughey here. What's the funny part? I predicted exactly how this fight went. I said it. Johnson's going to be losing. And then out of nowhere, he's just going to nuke McConaughey. What happened? He gets pieced up. He gets hurt a little, He's just fucking swinging random ass shit. Just swinging these big meaty hooks. Then, boom! One good shot puts down McConaughey. Starches him. And Johnson got hurt in the beginning. And I can't believe it. That's literally how the fight went. Too. Like, that is so crazy. Just wails these big meaty hooks, then gets clipped. He gets hit with I believe a jab or a straight, and it looked like it had busted up his nose a little. I could be wrong on that, but then McConaughey, he didn't capitalize on it at all, and then he got slimed. That's pretty much what happened. Big meaty hook Johnson just fucking put him down, put him away. Literally, he did not throw like a jab or anything. He just went all in for a finish, and he got it. Very good finish from Johnson. Susarkayev had a hard time putting away McConaughey. For 2 rounds, he got confused a little, Friggin' Rodolfo Vieira, who beat Tresean Gore, McConaughey beat that guy. So, Dante Johnson, bro, fucking, this guy. I thought he was not going to be the best, but my mind has changed. I think he is a legit contender now. But can't speak as in like a ranked contender, but I think he could be a unranked contender for a bit. We'll see how his career plays out. His build kind of reminds me of like Sean Woodson's build, where he's like this monster of a torso with these weird scrawny legs. Maybe it's just me. Maybe that's just me. Good performance from Johnson. Moving on, Charles Johnson versus Eduardo Chapelin. I had Eduardo Chapelin, and you know what? He wasn't even far off of winning, honestly. He was flabby for this fight. He wasn't in shape necessarily, but, first round, Chapelin, he eye pokes Charles Johnson in exchange. Then he, later in the round, knees him to the head. It was a 9-9 round in my opinion. Chapelin was doing pretty decent on the feet. I mean, it wasn't anything like staggering, but he was doing better than Johnson. He was winning exchanges quite convincingly. He did better for sure. He did a lot better. He did better than I would have expected. I thought he was going to grapple more, to be honest, just because of the Contender Series fight, but maybe that's not his strongest suit. Johnson's still feeling him out a little. Round 2. Charles Johnson, they start off, they're boxing a little, Chapolin throws this, I believe it was either a hook or an uppercut, it was a straight, then a hook or an uppercut. He catches Johnson, fucking looks like Johnson has died, honestly. The way he falls to his back, just looking up at the sky like, oh my. And this fucking guy tries to do the Jalen Turner walk-off KO type shit, only for him to friggin' let Charles Johnson, like, that's some, really, like, this is the Jalen Turner of flyweight. That's what it reminds me of. Literally does the Jalen Turner. Like, why aren't you stopping this? He's bobbling on the feet. Charles Johnson's still hurt even though he gets up. He's still bobbling on the feet. He's looking at the ref like, what do you want him to do? He's back up. He drops him bad, and he's still doing the jelly leg dance. While he's up, he's still hurt, and he doesn't go for the finish. And Chapolin, like, what are you doing? What was the plan there? And then Johnson shoots, then he gets a sprawl. But, they end up in the clinch for a little bit of it. Like, what are we doing? He didn't even try to hammer fist him or nothing. He just let him back in the fight. Like, really? Only till Johnson sprawled did he start punching him. Johnson was landing some good teeps near the end of the round. He landed a teep at the end of the round. A very nice teep. He landed a good combo at the end of the round. Come round 3. Chapolin, actually, at the end of round 2, Chapolin is very tired. You could clearly tell that, he's tired. He wasn't in shape for this, for sure. He did so much better than I expected him to. Like, he would have won this fight had he survived the 3rd round. Or it would have been a draw. Depending on who you ask. Like, actually, not even depending. It would have been a 20-18 for Chapolin. So, if it was a 9-9, of course. Or it would have been a draw. Or a Johnson win, actually. Or Johnson win if it was a 10-8. But, they come out. Johnson's, picking up the pace. Chapolin is, countering a little. But he's gassed. He's tired. They get in the clinch. They get in the clinch for a little. Chapolin, I believe, Johnson gets his back after a scramble. He gets his back. I think maybe Chapolin fell over a little. I forget. I think it was a scramble, just like a scramble. Johnson gets his back, secures the back of Chapolin. Chapolin thinks he's going to get into full guard. He gets Scottish twistered, I believe, is what it's called. He locks it in. Johnson was really wrenching. You could see it on his face. I'm surprised Chapolin didn't immediately tap to it. Like, that's some... He was almost out, too. He tried to clear, but he couldn't get out. Good on Johnson. Actually, no. How do you almost get colded by a guy on, 3 days' notice? Like, this guy sucks. Like, who? The only person I can think of who's that bad is David Onama. And he's ranked. Like, David Onama, I believe... I don't even think Roberto Romero got that much time to prepare for him either. And he almost got colded by him. Maybe I'm tripping. I'm rambling. Good performance by Charles Johnson. Good finish, not performance. He did not look good. He looked pretty flat out there. Until the 3rd round, to be honest. Until the end of the 2nd to the 3rd, he looked better, but... He didn't really perform the way you would hope from a... He did, I will say, respect to him for bringing up Alan Nascimento in his post-fight speech. He called for Horiguchi or, I believe Horiguchi or some other guy. Friggin' hell. I think he may have called for Roy Ball. It was Roy Ball or Horiguchi he asked for. I don't think you should get those fights, buddy. Go fight Steve Ersagan, the Apex kid. Moving on. Good performance. Good finish. My bad, not performance. From Charles Johnson. It was a close, odds fight. that makes sense. Chapolin did look good on the Contender Series. And I thought he would grapple, to be honest. But smart approach. Moving on, Chidi Njokuani versus Yoel Alvarez, or Joel Alvarez. And, I had Joel Alvarez. Joel. What were we doing up there? What were we doing? Literally. What were we doing? Yeah, I'm going to stand in front of the high output Thai kickboxer. That's very smart, right? Like, I'm shocked because Chidi Njokuani went to a split decision with Reese McKee. And you know what? Reese McKee, I gotta respect it. He had a way better performance than Alvarez. Again, 30-27 by Njokuani. I get it was on short notice, but like, if a guy who's not even in the UFC is doing better than you against Njokuani, I think that's all that needs to be said, to be honest. Damn cat. My cat's in my shelf. He just knocks it. You know, whatever. Njokuani, man, he pulls off a pretty good performance. He was in boxing range the entire time, lighting up Yoel Alvarez's body. He cooks up his body, makes it all red and shit. You know, destroys his leg a little. Alvarez is just standing there like a very smart individual, just standing there letting himself get hit. I mean, he tries a few body straight combos, you know, lead body hook to a straight. It was landing. You know, I will give him credit. That was landing. That combo was consistently landing. But Njokuani just lights him up with kicks and some boxing. He didn't really have any, like, whoa moments, you know. But he pretty much outclasses Alvarez, you know. Alvarez looked like a fish out of water, honestly. Like, I'm very surprised by it. But it was on short notice, but I would have at least thought he would put up a better fight in the clinch, you know. It is what it is, though. There's not too much more to say. They got into the, you know, clinch a little, but Njokuani pretty much just back foot volumed Alvarez out to a decision. Pretty much. Head kicks, lead head kicks. Like, he lit him up. Good performance from Njokuani. To do a guy like Alvarez like that, who has only really lost to really good fighters, either says one of two things: is he's a size advantage, you know, type fighter where he has to fight somebody smaller, or, you know, Njokuani was just a stylistic matchup that Alvarez couldn't handle. Take that as you will. Good performance from Njokuani for sure. Good performance, not taking anything away. Moving on to the opener of the main card. Edson Barboza versus Esteban Ribovic. You know, man, I felt a little sad seeing Unk retire for the, you know, this would be his last fight. Yeah, man, the emotions were running pretty deep, not gonna lie. It was pretty sad to see him lose in his retirement fight, but he is one tough fucker. He is one tough bastard. Even as the fight was getting stopped, he kind of wanted to keep going, but he's a tough guy. Alright, round one, Esteban puts that pressure on him. Obviously. What was that? Maybe I'm tripping. Esteban puts the pressure on him, just out-volumes him, just pressures him so much, cuts open his eye, specifically the eye with the skin over it, the one that's been damaged so much. Just cuts him open. Nasty cut. He then gets finally, you know, he's countering a little. He tries some counters, but it's mostly Esteban just putting it on him. He lands a spinning back kick at one point in the fight. You know, he didn't do too bad. Ribovic just takes over, punching. He lands some good body shots in the clinch off of breaks. In general, he landed good body shots, but Esteban left himself open a lot in this fight, in my opinion. He kind of just walked down with no respect. He just walked Edson down. I guess that's kind of what you got to do to somebody you look up to, which he did admit. You know, he looked up to Edson. He pretty much just mogs Edson, as hard as it is to say that. Just beats him up. Edson's shin splits, I believe, off of a low kick that was checked by Esteban. Round two comes. Esteban, fake glove touches Edson, immediately hooks him, just gets him back on the back foot, just puts it on him. rocks him. Actually, at the end of round 1, it looked like a knockdown for Esteban, but I believe it was the shin split of Edson that is what made him fall, I believe. I'm not quite sure on it. Probably what did happen. Round 2, like I said, Esteban just puts it on. Just walks down Edson, just puts him down. As hard as that is to say, he didn't put him down and out. He hurt him. He makes him do the jelly legs. He's wobbly. Edson's wobbly on the back foot. Does a few more. Herb Dean stops it. That was one of Herb's better stoppages for sure. And that was it. Esteban was, giving all the attention to Edson. That's nice of him. And, seeing Edson cry in the octagon in his retirement speech was getting the emotions right. I can't lie. I was getting the tears flowing. Just a little bit. I didn't cry, guys. I'm happy that Edson retired and won't fight again. Hopefully Esteban will fight, some younger guys. Maybe even get back in the rankings. Fighting a rankings fight, not get back in them. He was never in them. Maybe he'll get into the rankings by fighting somebody. Hopefully, we see Esteban versus some young people. No more unks, please. Moving on to the second fight of the main card. I had even said it. Mansour Abdul Malik is a very, very, overrated fighter. Literally, every time I see this man fight, I just wonder, what is wrong with this guy? Like, what was... He gets he gets beaten in the first round, for sure. He loses it clearly. Dustin Stoltzfus here fucking lifts this man up off his, body. He gets him on the cage, fucking body slams him onto the ground, fucking just... Like, I'm shocked. I had Abdul Malik, just because this ain't that good, right? But the thing is, like, Stoltzfus isn't a bad fighter. He's not terrible. He made the Rozaboyev fight pretty fucking competitive. And the first round, he dropped Rozaboyev. He beat Marc Andre, who I think is a way better fighter than Malik. And Malik, when he's not fighting absolute bum-ass scrubs, he's getting done like this most of the time. Like, he's getting beat. Because he's not good. If your name isn't Wes Schultz, he's going to have a hard time beating you. Unless your name is Tricoli and goddamn Wes Schultz, he's going to have some trouble. If you're like, he couldn't even beat Cody Brunich properly. He had to knee him in the nuts to get that weak-ass stoppage anyway. Round 1, Stoltzfus, he just puts it on him. There's no moments from Mansour at all. Mansour just looks scared. Stoltzfus definitely looked a little tired. He took down Mansour a bit. He didn't hold him too much, but he did take him down. He hit some he hit some good a few good doubles. He got some good attempts on the doubles. Round 2, Stoltzfus does what Stoltzfus does and gets tired, because that's what he does. You think, oh yeah, here's Malik's, he's coming back. Nope. He literally keeps his hands down in the last exchange of the fight, letting himself get rocked like an idiot. And apparently they've trained before. I don't know what Malik was even doing. He looked like a fish. He looks bad in general. He's just bad. He's just bad. There's nothing more to say. If you're losing to Dustin Stoltzfus, who most prospects just shrug off as a weight on their shoulder, like as a chip, like this would literally be a chip on a shoulder of like a good prospect. Abdul Malik looked like he had a literal anchor on his shoulder fighting this guy. Like, really? He gets taken down, or no, he tries to take Dustin down. He gets put back in that goddamn... Maybe it was a takedown from Dustin. He got on to a body lock. He gets him on the cage, turns him over, gets the back. Or, no, actually, I believe he hurt Malik. Malik fucking flops over like an idiot after getting taken down from Stoltzfus. And then he just kind of, I'm too tired, bruh. And just lets him, he's like, I'll let you slam me out, gang. Like, really, bro? He didn't even try to defend the choke either. He didn't try to fight hands. He literally let himself get choked out. And he tapped. because he was so exhausted. Both these guys were tired fighting each other. You know, Malik had a better second, but he didn't. He looked so bad. He let himself get hit. He tried to exchange with Dustin. Like, what are you doing? That was bad on me. I literally even said in the prediction video, like, I want to pick Dustin, but I can't. And I already knew why I was going to pick Dustin, and it was because Malik is an overachiever. Like, he got to the UFC, but he's not UFC caliber in that way. Like, you're overachieving these wins. Like, really? I would say he's an overachiever because he's not good. Moving on. Good performance from Stoltzfus, because minus 500 favorite. Plus 500. The dogs came up big this card. I can't lie. They came up pretty big. Jeremiah Wells came up massive. Jalen Turner versus Cowboy Fernandez. Good performance from Dustin. Jalen Turner, Cowboy Fernandez. My bad. Bro. Okay, we start out. Fernandez throws his classic low kick, okay? You know, Turner, you know, he's getting that jab going. You know, he throws a straight. Fernandez botches a kick, misses it, tries to do a spinning back fist off of missing, right? Jalen Turner immediately throws a punch to his hip, then to his head, drops him. You know, he just flurried him into dropping him, and Fernandez fell flat on the back of his back. You know, he just fell flat on his back, on the cage, trying to grab Turner, bop, 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 put him to sleep. That's what happens when you're not fighting featherweights at lightweight. Like, this fucking guy is taunting Harry Hardwick. Keep that same energy, bro. Why weren't you taunting Jalen Turner immediately? You know what I mean? I'm playing, you know? Fernandez threw a low kick, botched it, got clipped, put down, to sleep. Jalen Turner is either still really good, like, he's still good, or Fernandez is just shit. It's one of those two. And we'll have to see in the next fight that Turner has. I wouldn't even be surprised if Fernandez tries to go on one of those I just fell on my face type loss, things where he comes back and immediately goes into another fight. Like Hermanson, does a Hermanson, just, be ready for the next one, just to get brutally slimed out. I can't believe Oral by lost. Pretty easy slime out from Turner. He showed levels. And he was asking for top 10 or top 5. Weird. Good performance from Turner. In 40 seconds to get rid of a guy like Fernandez is still pretty impressive, to be honest. Fernandez is no easy joke. He beat Garam Kutateledze. He beat Gamrot. Come on, guys. Good performance from Turner. Good finish. Fernandez literally got 2 things off, and I think they're both low kicks. This guy literally cannot strike. He just throws low kicks. That's his move. Oh, this one was a real barn burner, folks. Moving on to the co-main event. Mackenzie Dern versus Jillian Robertson. And before I even start about talking about this fight, Dean Thomas is one of the worst coaches I've ever heard talk. Just get her down to the ground. Just start dirty boxing. Yeah, how am I going to do that if I can't strike and I can't get her down? Go ahead and explain that to me, Dean Thomas. Please. Tell me how I'm supposed to do that. What useless fucking coach tells their fighter, just get him to the ground, just start dirty, just outstrike them? How am I supposed to do that? You didn't teach me nothing. I saw Jillian Robertson throw jabs like a victim out there with no skill. I was even saying it in the predictions video. Robertson literally cannot strike. She literally can't strike. She throws jabs and looks so slow, you would imagine that's your nan throwing punches, your grandma. Just, oh, I got this one. No, she's... Oh, smoke alarm beep. First one of the video. Count them up. Round 1. Mackenzie Dern just friggin' boxes her up, takes her down, lays on her for the first. Pretty simple. Just outstrikes her completely. Round 2. Robertson had a lot more ground strikes off her back, I would say. She still throws punches like a victim. Gets taken down again, out-grappled for first 2. I believe in the second, she had almost got subbed by a rear naked choke. I think in the second. Yes, it was the second. Sub attempt in round 1. Either was maybe it was the first. And then she got she almost got like a knee bar in one of these early rounds. I think in the second when it was in the second when Robertson got on top. I'm not quite sure. Well, by the reversals, I'm pretty sure that's. Imagine landing no significant strikes. Round 3. It's a bit better for Robertson, but she literally can't strike, so she gets taken down again. You know, she gets on top at the end of the round, but does pretty much nothing with it. You know, she's throwing punches to the body a little. She doesn't do enough to win the round. You know, round 4, she does better. You know, she reverses Dern. You know, they trade a little bit of bop. You could argue it's a Robertson round, but I had it 4-0 Dern, and round 5 was very clearly Robertson. Not a lot to talk about. I mean, it was as I expected. It was just a Dern just being better striking-wise. You okay? It was just Dern being better striking-wise than, of course, than Robertson, because Robertson literally cannot strike. But Robertson got the takedown at the end of the round. Smoke alarm beep. You know, she did better at the 5th, but if she learned how to strike, she probably would have beaten Dern. Like, Dern is really good at beating people who can't strike but can grapple. Like Jandaroba twice. You know what I'm saying? But she can't beat Amanda Lemos. Make it make sense, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're competent on the feet, she's not good. You know? If you have actual skill, she literally cannot beat you. You know, like Lupi Godinez, you know, she's a little confident on the feet. Competent. But Dern beat her because she tried to grapple. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the matchup that was always going to go into Dern's favor. Plus, Robertson's last 5 opponents have a combined streak of 0-19. Yeah, I'm going to pick the girl who literally has nobody on a good run right now as a win. Pretty boring fight. That's why I didn't spend too much time talking about it. It was just lay and pray from both. The main event. I also had Dern for that. And I had Turner. I had Malik. And I had Ripovich. So I went 4-1 on the main card. The main event. Islam Makhachev versus Ian Gary. Man. What to say? It was 3-2-2. Now I'm joking. Makhachev, you know, he controls Ian for the very first round with some knees to the thigh, to the clinch. You know, he immediately shot on a single. And they got into the scramble. Pretty sure there will one day be an edit of McGregor Habib and them comparing it to Islam and Gary. Smoke alarm beep. And the thing is, like, Ian Gary did not accept position off that single unless he had to get, like, out-muscled. Like, he kept trying to get the reversal like he did on Shavkat, if y'all remember that. Like, he tried to get the single leg reversal. That's why I think he was leaving his lead leg open so much. You know, Islam threw some low kicks, got him down for a little bit, got him back up to the cage, kneed the thigh a bit. You know, he just kept that going. Round 2, he tries to do the same. You know, he shoots on the single. They get to the clinch. They break off the clinch. It could either be, I believe it was a break off the clinch, and, you know, they're going into open space. Then Islam throws just a hook, chains it into a head kick, and hits that, you know, that Saidov guy who hit that combo on Jacoby. Clips him with that, drops Ian Gary. Confuzzles him, smoke alarm beep. Drops him, you know, he's discombobulated, he's running. He judo tosses Gary off. He judo tosses him into side control to mount. And he left a very strong impression that round. That was a very good round for Makhachev. That was probably his best round of the fight. You know, we're back. We're laying and praying on the cage with Ian Gary hugging us. No, I'm playing. This was an Ian Gary round. He outstruck Islam on the feet. You know, he stuffed the takedowns quite well. He did better for sure. I believe he landed a lead head kick that had cut open Islam's face, like the cut under his face, and a little bit of his nose. You know, this was definitely a better round for Ian Machado Gary. He definitely did a lot better on the feet. He kept it standing for most of it. Better round. You know, it was 2-1. Round 4, smoke alarm beep. You can't argue that Islam won this round. I personally thought Ian Gary had tied it up 2-2 just because Islam was just holding him on the cage. He didn't do too much. You know, I thought personally it was 2-2 heading into the 5th. Gary was busy in the clinch with body strikes, head strikes. Like, he was more busy than Islam was because Islam was not doing too much. You know, and we did not get one referee separation the entire time. Weirdly enough. You know, very, very interesting. You know, Gary was landing some hard body kicks in round 3, you know, right to the body. I believe he landed one in round 1. But he was doing a lot better to the body, for sure. That was his main thing he was landing. And, you know, Islam didn't do too much in round 4, I will say. You know, he was just clinching him. Gary was keeping busy, punching him in the body, punching him on the, elbowing him, smoke alarm beep, just beating him up to the body in the clinch. He definitely won the round in my book. Round 5. A lot more competitive. And if Islam didn't get the back take at the end of the round, you could be having arguments over who won this fight, honestly. Because Gary did start out well. You know, he was outdoing Islam. Islam was focusing on the low kicks on the lead leg of Gary. You know, Gary didn't do what I expected him to, which was, you know, circle out like he did against Protez. Or run away like he did against Jeff Neal, depending on who you ask. But, you know, he definitely did better than I thought. You know, they're competitive on the feet. You know, some low kicks, tippy-tappy low kicks. Classic. Islam tries to bomb rush him. You know, shoots onto the cage. You know, they're just knee in the thigh. Islam's just knee in the thigh a bit. Finally gets the takedown that means the entire fight. Just got Ian down. Got his back for 2 minutes. And that was the way he won the fight. You know, he didn't do too much. He didn't do too much from that position. But he did what he thought was necessary to win. And he won the fight 3-2 or 48-47 in my personal opinion. But the scorecards were 2 49-46s and 1 48-47. Islam, man. You may not like the guy's fight style, but you have to accept that this guy could possibly be the GOAT. Like, 2-division weight champion with a defense, with being the best lightweight, the GOAT of lightweight, arguably, and doing that and recapturing that same ability up a weight class against a guy who's way bigger than you. Smoke alarm beep. I don't want to hear no John Jones. Like, John Jones beat up Unks. You know, Rampage Jackson, who was a midget compared to him. Like, if we're really talking about, like, when has John Jones fought somebody bigger than him? You can't say Stipe, because Stipe was 40 years old and a fireman. You know? Like, he didn't fight Aspinall. You know, come on, bruh. This Islam is the GOAT. You literally cannot deny that. How, like, in the lower weight classes especially, it is extra difficult. I don't even believe I've seen have we seen a lightweight go up to welterweight? I don't believe so. And challenge for a second belt. Maybe I'm tripping. Pretty sure we've seen a welter go to middle with GSP, but not too much else. Like, Makhachev being able to do that on the 17th fight win streak, bro. 17th fight consecutive win streak. This man's the GOAT. Smoke alarm beep. This is the GOAT right here. This is the GOAT. It's gonna be really hard to see who actually will beat him. You know, what I think is next for Makhachev is probably going to be Michael Morales, just because what I noticed is that whoever, like, steps in to make the weight as a backup fighter usually ends up fighting for the belt next, like Covington, you know, stepping in to weigh in as a backup in England or London or whatever for Usman, Leon 3. And, you know, he got the immediate next title shot. So I think Morales is next. I think that fight will be I think that will be a very interesting one, just because of the styles. But as we can see here, 22 significant strikes for Islam. And I'm going to, he did good with that head kick. Good on to him. He got a knockdown. Gary, I think, I would say it's either a Prates rematch for Gary or a Morales fight. I can probably see Prates winning a title shot over Morales, maybe. But in my opinion, Prates, he did beat Jack Della, but he really hasn't done anything outside of that to really secure him that spot like Morales has done. Like, Morales made the weight as a backup, Prates didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Prates had made the weight as the backup, 100% he's next. But we're in limbo now because if Bonfim beats Brady, we can now put Morales down, But if Brady beats Bonfim, we could put Morales up, make him versus Islam next. But, whatever the UFC does next, it'll probably be Morales just because of how the UFC is, in my opinion. Not in my opinion, just because of patterns in the UFC. Like, if Colby's getting a title shot off of, losing? Beating Masvidal, they can give, Morales a title shot. Or just make Morales versus Prates. No more waiting. Just make that fight, UFC. I couldn't give a shit what's next for Mackenzie Dern, of course, but that's just what I think is probably going to be next for Ian Gary. At worst, Gary gets the winner of friggin' Brady Bonfim, at worst. For all I know, Gary could get a shot against Morales if Prates is going next. So, yep, that's what I got. It was the last two fights, they were pretty mid. There was a good amount of upsets on this card. Stoltzfus being one, and Njokuani being one. Magny being one, and Jeremiah Wells being one. Those are some pretty crazy upsets. We got a bit of upsets this card. I can't believe Wells beat Oralby. Alright, guys. I think that'll do it for this immediate reaction video. Hopefully y'all like it. What a card. So many unexpected upsets. I can't believe Dustin Stoltzfus. Actually, I can believe that, actually. But Jalen Turner slamming out Fernandez in 30 seconds is pretty fucking crazy, to be honest. Alright, guys. I'm gonna head out. Islam's the GOAT. That's all I gotta say. Alright. He's undeniable. He's the pound for pound #1 and the GOAT. Alright. Goodbye, guys. Sorry for glazing.